Hello and welcome to Five Writers, 5 Minutes. We are a podcast and a YouTube channel inspiring you to write your stories. We are five professional writers. I'm Zanny Louise.
I'm Leanne Tanner.
I'm Deborah Abella.
I'm Sarah Armstrong.
And I'm Tristan Banks.
So we'll be here throughout the school year, holding your hand in a way. If you come back week after week, we'll have lots of inspiring material for you, covering all ranges of things from writing to the stories behind our books, to the things that trip us up. And yeah, you'll have to be with us to see what we've got for you. This week, we will be exploring how to encourage our creative mind. Leanne, what do you do? What inspires you?
Oh, look, years ago, I had someone tell me that I wasn't naturally creative, and I agreed with them at the time. I mean, now I know that that was nonsense, but I didn't feel creative at the time because I hadn't learnt to listen to my creative voice. And I think of creativity as being like a really small kid. If you ask that small kid for ideas for a story, they'll start throwing out all sorts of weird, funny, crazy ideas at you. But if you criticize those ideas, if you go, oh, no, that one's boring. No, I don't like that one. No, that one's dumb. The kid's going to get quieter and quieter, and eventually they're going to shut up. So when I was trying to learn to listen to my creative voice, I tried to honor in some way every idea that popped into my head. Like either I wrote it down or I thought about it for a little while or I played with it, just as a way of saying to my creativity, look, I'm listening. I like what you're doing. Keep going. It's kind of a little bit like brainstorming where you write down everything, no matter how daft it is. And what I found was that as I did that, my creative voice gradually started speaking louder and louder until now it pretty much shouts at me.
Yeah.
Good. I would prefer
Good
that
idea.
voice than the person who told you weren't creative.
Yeah.
I get that's
I
staggering to
know.
me that someone would tell Leanne Tanner she wasn't creative.
Yeah. But the writing
yeah.
down and writing your way into creativity
Yeah.
and proving it, showing that you're creative is genius.
And I also find too, the more that you write or the more you play with ideas, the more ideas come. And because I know that if I've taken a break from writing because, I've gone on a hiking trip and I don't have a pen or a paper or anything, I find when I sort of get back to like the business of coming up with ideas and stuff, it's slow. It's kind of, I can feel the wheels churning, a bit rusty, but the more that I do it, the more that it comes more easily. And I find, I mean, having said that, being in nature and going for hikes is very important, I think, for my encouraging my creativity, because I don't want to concentrate on a pen or a paper or a computer or whatever. I do actually want my mind to just wander. And daydreaming is so important. So I try not to be plugged in to any music or anything while I'm wandering. I try to just let it flow. And Leanne, to that point of, imagine your creativity as a little kid. I mean, you have to encourage that kid, and that kid will then grow and become amazing. And you have to be your best cheerleader as well. That little voice that says to you, you're no good, or this is a terrible idea. I think you have to be your biggest cheerleader. And also you have to think about, if a friend came to you with an idea and said, I've got this idea, would you then say, you know what, that's rubbish. That is terrible. Like, you just wouldn't, right? So what I try to do is try not to do that to myself. I try to think, right, if I was, a friend to myself, which hopefully I am, I would try and encourage that idea. Oh, maybe more of that, less of that. So yeah, that's a bunch of stuff that I try to do and try and find the joy in it, so that I forget in a way that it's a process, that it actually is just this fun, joyful thing that I'm doing.
Creativity. I love that.
I think for me, it's about looking at the world around me with a kind of curiosity. I sort of think of this thing of having a writer's eye, and it's just noticing stuff and asking myself questions like, what if a spaceship landed in front of me, or what if suddenly there was a flash flood down the bottom of my street? Like I've always been a daydreamer since I was a kid. I would dream up little scenarios, often involving catastrophes where I saved the day. interestingly. I am well versed in kind of coming up with scenarios in my head. So it's a bit like that. It's just allowing that to happen and noticing, like, why is that person sitting by the side of the road with a suitcase, and why are they still there when I come back an hour later? So just asking myself those questions and noting things like, you know, I remember once a dog drove by in the back of a ute and it just sort of met my eyes and it just stayed looking at me until it disappeared. And it was like, oh, okay, I'm just clocking that. I'm just going to tuck that away. It's like just seeing everything that happens around me as, you know, a little image or raising a question that I can use in my writing. And I love what you're both saying about being kind to those ideas, because sometimes that first idea is not going to be how the final story might look, but it can lead you somewhere interesting. Exactly like brainstorming. It's just accepting whatever comes up and allowing it to lead you down a path. I think that's what I do.
It's beautiful.
Curiosity is such a big part of it, isn't it?
Yes, definitely.
Well, I think following the curiosity is important too, isn't it? Letting yourself follow the curiosity, because there is that part, especially maybe kids are probably better at following their natural instincts and what they want to do at the time. But, you know, as you become an adult, you start to have this voice in that's telling you what to do all the time, do this and do that. And this would be the best way to do it. And it's like you almost have to, in order to encourage your creativity, sometimes I'll think, okay, I'm going to go out and write, and I'll walk out of my house or I'll drive out of my house, and I will just think, usually I'd go right and I'll just go left kind of thing. And I'll go, I don't know where I'm going and I'm not sure yet, but I'm following this. And then I feel an instinct that I'm going to go that way. And then I'll find some new place that I'm going to sit down and write, or a new cafe, or a new somewhere. And just even that, just allowing yourself to exercise that much sort of instinctive following of curiosity somehow makes me able to sit down and be more creative. Whereas if I've been telling myself, do this and do that and stop doing, then I find the creativity doesn't flow. And I also think that creativity is obviously not just in writing. You know, for people watching this, you know, you might express your creativity in other ways, you know, in your life, or in the way that you like converse with your friends, or in the way that you make videos, or you might shoot photos on your phone, or you might just be like I went out to Western New South Wales once and did some writing workshops, and there were these big boys who really weren't keen writers. You know, they were like, and I was like, oh no, it was year 9 after lunch. And then, but once I got them on to talking about pig hunting, which is something that they were enthusiastic about, they started telling all these stories about pig hunting, and they were super creative, and they went wild, and they couldn't tell enough stories about pig hunting. So, you know, creativity is about you, and it's about your own interests, and it's about following your own gut. It's not about listening to what somebody else tells you is creative.
Yep.
My goodness, I love all these ideas so much. This is one of my passions, your creativity. I spent my childhood wandering around our farm in Inverell in nature, telling myself stories, building these little worlds around me. And I like to think that I've followed a pretty creative path my whole life, and it has been about following my gut, following my instincts, and playing and allowing myself to have fun and always prioritize creativity as well. So when I was writing, they were educational manuals about 10 or 12 years ago. And I always made a point of spending the first half an hour doing the fun, creative stuff when I was fresh, when I was alive, when I had, you know, attention and all of those sort of things. So I've always put creativity up the top. And I really hear what all of you are saying. It's about cultivating play, cultivating joy, following your instinct, being true to yourself. And it's your creativity which is really worth nurturing. It's such a big part of what I do when I'm teaching kids as well with the writing. When I run writing class, I've been running writing classes for many years in Lismore for young kids. And the pure focus of my workshops is creativity and joy and confidence, and constantly validating each kid's voice. And, you know, what you're saying is wonderful. I want to hear more of it. I want to hear more. I want to hear more. And ultimately, those kids, they are just like, there's just so much creativity ready to come out. And I've never met a kid who doesn't have that in them. And when they're given permission to share it, wow. It's just so beautiful. I love it. So anyway, I'm on board with all the things you're saying. Be a friend to your creativity, be curious, be adventurous, be joyful, be playful. I love all of these things. So we're loving all your responses to the podcast. We're loving all your comments. We're loving all your shares, all of that. Keep going, keep making us feel amazing. We love it. We'll keep providing wonderful insight for you. We'll be here next week with a new topic. Follow, subscribe, share, all of that fun stuff. See you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya.